The Red Iron Brotherhood thought they'd pulled off the perfect heist when they slashed David Mitchell's tires at a remote truck stop and vanished into the Arizona scrubland. What they didn't know was that David's two Belgian Malinois were elite Marine Force Recon tracking dogs trained to hunt down targets in the most hostile environments on Earth. The moment they thought they'd escaped, they made the deadliest mistake of their criminal lives. In seconds, these dogs would turn predators into prey. The dusty truck stop outside Flagstaff, Arizona, has always been a convenient overnight for long-haul drivers, but today it's become a crime scene. David Mitchell stands beside his disabled 18-wheeler, examining the precisely slashed tires with the calculated assessment of someone who recognizes professional sabotage. What appears to be a simple case of vandalism to the state trooper taking notes is something far more tactical to the former Marine Force Recon K9 handler. This wasn't random. This was executed with military precision. Looks like you pissed off someone with a sharp knife, the trooper comments, completing his report. Insurance should cover it, but you're stuck here till tomorrow at least. David merely nods, his attention focused on the two Belgian Malinois moving methodically around the truck. To casual observers, Maverick and Fury appear to be pets, stretching their legs after a long drive. Only someone with specialized training would recognize the disciplined search pattern, the subtle communication between the dogs, the systematic way they're cataloging scents around the vehicle. "Your dog's always this restless?" the trooper asks, watching as Maverick pauses near the slashed driver's side tires, his scarred muzzle working the air currents with focused intensity. "They don't. Like being cooped up," David responds, the practice cover story rolling easily off his tongue. What he doesn't mention is that Maverick and Fury are two of the most decorated tracking dogs ever deployed with Marine Force Recon, with over 75 successful combat tracking missions in the most hostile environments on Earth. The trooper departs with promises to keep an eye out that David knows will amount to nothing. As the patrol car disappears, his demeanor shifts subtly, military bearing replacing the truck driver slouch. Maverick and Fury immediately respond to the change, their bodies tensing with anticipation. "All right, boys, what have we got?" David asks, his voice shifting to the commanding tone that had once directed specialized tracking operations behind enemy lines. Fury approaches, communicating through the trained signals developed during hundreds of tracking missions. His body language tells David everything: multiple subjects, professional work, deliberate targeting. This wasn't a random act of vandalism, it was a calculated hit. Maverick circles back from the far side of the truck, his powerful body moving with the fluid efficiency that had once tracked insurgent bomb makers through mountains for 18 straight hours. His alert behavior confirms David's suspicion. The perpetrators left clear scent trails leading northeast into the desert scrubland. Checking the cargo, David mutters, climbing into the trailer. As suspected, the high-value electronics shipment has been selectively pilfered, not cleaned out entirely, but specific items taken with knowledge of what would bring the highest black market return. Back outside, David examines the tire damage more carefully. The cuts are precise, angled to ensure catastrophic failure, but only after several miles of driving, designed to strand him in this remote location rather than in a busier area with more witnesses. Professional work. His phone shows a text from dispatch: replacement tires arriving tomorrow morning, continue to Phoenix after repairs. Insurance claim forms attached. Case closed as far as his employer is concerned. But for David Mitchell, this isn't just about slashed tires or stolen cargo. This is about the distinctive motorcycle tread marks Maverick has identified near the back of the truck. The Red Iron Brotherhood, a motorcycle club that has been expanding territory across 3 states, their criminal operations becoming increasingly sophisticated under new leadership. "They picked the wrong truck," David says quietly, retrieving specialized equipment from a hidden compartment beneath his sleeper cab. What looks like ordinary dog harnesses to untrained eyes are actually modified tactical vests designed for extended tracking operations, complete with specialized communication. Systems disguised as ordinary reflective strips. As he fits the harnesses on Maverick and Fury, David notes how both dogs stand at perfect attention, their bodies vibrating with controlled energy. These aren't pets eager for a walk. They're combat veterans preparing for a mission. The transition is immediate and complete. The same transformation David had witnessed before night operations in Helmand Province. "Track Protocol Alpha," he commands quietly, attaching their specialized leads. Both dogs immediately lower their noses to the ground, their powerful bodies shifting to the distinctive movement pattern that had once tracked high-value targets through the most challenging terrain on Earth. The Red Iron Brotherhood thought they had executed a perfect hit, disable a truck in a remote location, steal the valuable cargo, disappear without witnesses. What they couldn't possibly know was that their scent trails might as well be glowing highways to Maverick and Fury, two of the most effective combat tracking dogs ever deployed by the Marine Corps. The hunt has begun, and what started as simple tire slashing is about to lead David Mitchell straight into the heart of a criminal operation that has eluded law enforcement for months. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The desert dawn painted the Arizona landscape in shades of amber and gold as David completed his daily routine with Maverick and Fury. Most truckers used their mandatory rest periods for sleep or entertainment. David used them for training, rigorous regimens that maintained the dog's extraordinary tracking abilities while appearing to casual observers as simple exercise. "Scent discrimination," David commanded quietly, placing a row of identical metal containers in front of Fury. The Belgian Malinois moved down the line with methodical precision, his powerful nose detecting molecular differences invisible to human senses. The dog paused at the fourth container, alerting with the subtle head tilt that had once identified IED makers' scent trails in crowded marketplaces. "Correct," David confirmed, rewarding Fury with brief play using a specialized tug toy. Interaction was never just affection, it was reinforcement of the working bond that had kept them alive through 3 brutal deployments. Maverick's scarred muzzle, the result of shrapnel during a tracking operation gone wrong, twitched as he maintained his position, awaiting his turn. The scars matched David's own on his left leg, both earned during the same ambush in Helmand Province. The memories surfaced without warning. Helmand, 2017. Their unit pinned down after faulty intelligence led them into a trap. Maverick tracking, an escape route through seemingly impassable terrain, leading them to safety after 14 hours of continuous movement. 6 Marines owed their lives to the dog's extraordinary abilities that night. "Your turn," David told Maverick, setting up a more complex challenge, tracking a specific scent signature across multiple surfaces with distracting odors intentionally placed to confuse. The dog moved with absolute focus, his body language shifting subtly as he followed the invisible trail across concrete, metal, and fabric. At a nearby table, 2 other truckers watched with poorly disguised unease. "Those dogs ain't right," one muttered to his companion. "Too intense, like they're hunting, not playing." David pretended not to hear, but internally acknowledged the accuracy of the observation. Maverick and Fury would never be normal pets. They were combat veterans whose purpose had been tracking human targets through the most challenging environments on Earth. Civilian life hadn't changed their fundamental nature, only redirected it. "Good boy," David praised as Maverick completed the complex tracking exercise perfectly. The dog maintained his disciplined composure despite the success. No exuberant celebration, just the quiet satisfaction of a professional completing his mission. After finishing their morning training, David secured the specialized equipment in hidden compartments throughout his truck. Every piece had been modified from military grade to civilian appearance while maintaining functionality, tracking harnesses that looked like ordinary petware, communications gear disguised as standard accessories, specialized scent collection tools that appeared to be regular grooming equipment. His phone chimed with an update. Replacement tires would arrive in 3 hours. David used the time to review maps of the surrounding area, identifying likely escape routes based on the motorcycle tracks Maverick had discovered. The Red Iron Brotherhood maintained a clubhouse 30 miles northeast, according to local chatter. Perfect distance for a rapid strike operation against targets along the interstate. "What do you think, boys?" David asked, spreading the map for Maverick and Fury to examine. Both dogs studied it with intelligence that would have shocked those who viewed them as simple animals. Tracking conditions? The terrain would be challenging. Rocky desert with minimal moisture to hold scent. Fluctuating wind patterns, extreme temperature shifts between night and day. Civilian tracking dogs would lose the trail within miles, but Maverick and Fury had followed targets through Afghan mountains during dust storms. This was well within their extraordinary capabilities. David's hand unconsciously moved to the Marine Force Recon tattoo on his forearm, partially covered by his sleeve, a habit when planning operations. Their last deployment had tested the limits of what handlers and dogs could accomplish. Maverick and Fury had tracked a high-value target through 3 provinces, across rivers, through crowded villages, never losing the scent trail despite every attempt to break it. "Guess we haven't lost our edge," David murmured, watching as both dogs maintained alert positions by the door, monitoring the truck stop activity with military vigilance. Their bodies showed no tension that casual observers would notice, but David recognized their operational readiness, the same posture they'd adopted before high-risk tracking missions overseas. When the replacement tires arrived, David maintained his cover as an annoyed but resigned truck driver, just another victim of random highway crime. The repair crew worked efficiently, unaware that Maverick and Fury were quietly collecting additional scent samples around the truck, building a more comprehensive olfactory picture of the perpetrators. "All set," the lead mechanic announced, completing the paperwork. "You're cleared to continue your route to Phoenix." David signed the forms, playing his role perfectly. "Appreciate the quick work." What he didn't say was that Phoenix would have to wait. The distinctive scent trails Maverick and Fury had identified led in the opposite direction, toward whoever had orchestrated the precision strike against his truck. The Red Iron Brotherhood had executed what they thought was a perfect hit-and-run operation. What they couldn't possibly understand was that they'd left evidence more compelling than fingerprints or DNA to 2 of the most effective tracking dogs ever deployed in combat operations. Trails that would lead David Mitchell straight to their operation, no matter how far they ran or how well they thought they'd covered their tracks. The hunt wasn't over. It had barely begun. David guided his repaired 18-wheeler away from the truck stop, maintaining the expected route for precisely 3 miles before executing a controlled turn onto an unmarked access road. To traffic cameras and GPS tracking, his truck would appear to be continuing toward Phoenix, an electronic ghost created by specialized equipment hidden beneath his dashboard. Another remnant of his military days, repurposed for civilian use. "Command mode," he announced once they were clear of observation. Maverick and Fury immediately shifted positions, moving from relaxed travel posture to operational readiness. David parked the truck in a concealed depression, camouflaging it with practiced efficiency. Within minutes, the 18-wheeler had essentially disappeared from casual detection, a technique perfected during covert operations overseas. Back at the crime scene, David released Maverick and Fury from their standard harnesses, replacing them with what appeared to be ordinary hiking gear. Only close inspection would reveal the specialized components integrated into the design: moisture-wicking material to prevent scent fatigue, reinforced panels for protection, and concealed communication systems that allowed the dogs to transmit location data during extended tracking operations. "Let's work the scene properly," David murmured, retrieving specialized collection equipment from his hidden compartments. He documented the tire damage with methodical precision, examining cut patterns that revealed professional knowledge of commercial truck vulnerability points. This wasn't random vandalism. The perpetrators understood exactly how to disable an 18-wheeler most effectively. Maverick moved in a precise spiral pattern outward from the truck, his nose working the ground with extraordinary focus. Fury mirrored the movement in the opposite direction, both dogs executing the same systematic search procedure they'd performed hundreds of times in combat zones. Their training allowed them to differentiate between dozens of overlapping scents, isolating those relevant to the mission. David photographed the motorcycle tread patterns Maverick had identified earlier, comparing them against reference images on his specialized tablet. The match was immediate. Custom tires favored by Red Iron Brotherhood members, modified for improved desert performance while maintaining their distinctive pattern as a territorial marker. "Good boy!" David praised as Fury returned, communicating through trained signals. The dog had isolated 5 distinct human scents associated with the crime scene, 3 directly involved with the tire slashing, 2 remaining with vehicles. Precise numbers that would have been impossible to determine through conventional forensics. As David collected samples using specialized equipment, a sheriff's department cruiser pulled alongside. The deputy emerged, hand resting casually near, his sidearm as he approached. "Thought you'd be on your way to Phoenix by now," he observed, his tone deliberately neutral, while his eyes assessed David's equipment with professional suspicion. "Just documenting everything for the insurance claim," David explained, smoothly concealing his specialized gear while maintaining his civilian cover. Company policy. Maverick and Fury immediately shifted to their public personas, alert but unthreatening, nothing that would suggest military working dogs conducting an active tracking operation. This chameleon-like ability to switch between operational and civilian appearance had saved their lives multiple times in hostile territory. "Those look like serious dogs," the deputy commented, maintaining a cautious distance. "Former service. Dogs." David offered the partial truth that served as their cover story. "They get anxious in the cab for too long, letting them stretch before we continue." The deputy's radio crackled with a call from dispatch. After a brief conversation, he returned his attention to David. "We've had 3 similar incidents in the past month. Professional job, specific cargo targeted. You're the first to get hit in daylight, though." David's tactical assessment adjusted immediately. The Red Iron Brotherhood was escalating, growing bolder, more confident in their operations. The pattern matched insurgent behavior he'd observed overseas, increasing risk tolerance following successful missions, testing boundaries before major operational expansion. "Any leads?" David asked, projecting the appropriate concern of a civilian victim. "Nothing concrete," the deputy admitted. "These guys know what they're doing. No witnesses, no cameras in the right positions, no physical evidence left behind. Except scent trails," David thought, watching as Maverick continued his systematic search pattern while appearing to casual observation as merely an energetic dog exploring his surroundings. "Well, I appreciate you following up," David said, packing away his documentation equipment with practiced efficiency. "I should get back on the road, make up for lost time." After the deputy departed, David completed his forensic collection, allowing Maverick and Fury to conduct their final scent discrimination procedures. Both dogs confirmed what he had already suspected. The perpetrators had spent significant time surveilling the truck stop before executing their attack, establishing a comprehensive scent picture throughout the area. "Track protocol initiated," David commanded quietly. Both Belgian Malinois immediately shifted to their specialized tracking formation, noses working the ground with extraordinary precision. Their bodies moved with the fluid efficiency that had once tracked high-value targets through the most hostile Terrain on Earth. The trails led northeast exactly as expected into the desert landscape toward known Red Iron Brotherhood territory. What was unexpected was the clarity of the scent trail. No attempt at concealment, no counter-tracking measures, no awareness that they might be followed. The motorcycle club had grown complacent, confident that conventional law enforcement couldn't touch them. They had never encountered Maverick and Fury, dogs who had tracked bomb makers through mountains during monsoon season, who had followed high-value targets across 3 provinces despite professional counter-tracking measures, who had located hidden insurgent camps that had eluded satellite surveillance. As David shouldered his specialized pack and checked his communications equipment, his expression settled into the focused determination that his Marine unit had called his hunting face, the same look he'd worn before high-risk tracking operations. In Helmand Province, the Red Iron Brotherhood had left a scent trail. To Maverick and Fury, they might as well have painted a highway directly to their location. The hunt was on. The Arizona desert stretched before them as David prepared for extended tracking operations. The midday heat would challenge even Maverick, and Fury's extraordinary capabilities, ground temperatures approaching 140 degrees, would rapidly degrade scent molecules, while thermal updrafts would disperse what remained. Conditions that would render conventional tracking impossible. Terrain adaptation protocol, David commanded, removing specialized equipment from his pack. Both Belgian Malinois moved into position, standing perfectly still as he applied protective. Wax to their paw pads, a compound developed for military working dogs operating in extreme environments. The same substance had protected them during tracking operations across superheated compounds in Afghanistan. David checked his tactical map, marking their position and calculating potential routes. The Red Iron Brotherhood's compound lay approximately 15 miles northeast, but experienced targets rarely traveled in straight lines. He anticipated a more circuitous route, possibly using natural features to break visual tracking. Water management, he murmured, adjusting the specialized hydration systems integrated into the dog's tracking harnesses. Maverick and Fury had been conditioned to operate in extreme heat through progressively challenging training regimens. Their bodies adapted to desert conditions through years of deployment. The memory surfaced without warning. Helmand Province, 2018. Tracking a bomb maker across 30 miles of open desert, temperatures exceeding 120 degrees. Conventional wisdom said the operation was impossible. Scent molecules wouldn't survive such conditions. Maverick had proven conventional wisdom wrong. Following microscopic particulate evidence invisible to human detection, 6 IEDs were discovered and neutralized because of that supposedly impossible track. Command authority, David said quietly, the specialized phrase shifting both dogs from preparation to operational status. Maverick took point position, Fury flanking slightly behind, the same formation they'd used during hundreds of combat tracking missions. Their bodies moved with the fluid efficiency that came from thousands of hours of specialized training. David checked his communications equipment one final time, ensuring the automated updates would reach his secure server. If he couldn't return as scheduled, the message he'd left with his employer, family emergency, taking approved leave, would cover his absence for 72 hours. More than enough time to track the Red Iron Brotherhood to their operation and document their activities for proper authorities. Initiate, he commanded. Maverick and Fury immediately began tracking, their powerful bodies moving with deceptive grace across the desert terrain. To untrained observers, they might appear to be simply hiking with their owner. Only specialists would recognize the precision movement patterns, the systematic coverage of terrain, the disciplined focus that distinguished military tracking dogs from conventional search animals. The route quickly confirmed David's tactical assessment. The motorcycles had indeed taken a circuitous path, following dry washes and rocky outcroppings that would eliminate tire tracks visible from aerial surveillance. The riders had confidence in their escape route, developed through repeated successful operations. Their complacency would be their undoing. 3 miles into the track, Maverick suddenly altered his pattern, moving toward an outcropping with heightened intensity. David recognized the behavior immediately. The dog had detected a concentration point, an area where the targets had stopped for significant time rather than simply passing through. Area search, David directed, releasing both dogs from their tracking leads to conduct a broader search pattern. Their training allowed them to work independently while maintaining tactical coordination, covering the maximum area with optimal efficiency. Fury alerted first, his body freezing in the specialized indication posture that communicated discovery. Without sound, David approached carefully, documenting what the dogs had found: cigarette butts, food wrappers, and more telling small electronic components matching the merchandise stolen from his truck. Transfer point, David concluded, photographing the evidence methodically. The Red Iron Brotherhood wasn't simply stealing merchandise. They were processing it immediately, removing serial numbers and repackaging components for resale. Professional operation, likely with established distribution networks. As David collected evidence, his satellite phone vibrated with an incoming message. The sheriff's department had filed his truck sabotage under suspected highway vandalism. The case, effectively closed despite the deputy's earlier acknowledgement of the pattern, either incompetence or deliberate neglect, possibly indicating local law enforcement compromise. The memory surfaced again: Helmand Province. Local police forces compromised by Taliban influence. Investigations mysteriously abandoned. Evidence disappearing from secured locations. The pattern was disturbingly familiar. Extended track protocol, David commanded, attaching specialized long-range tracking equipment to both dogs' harnesses. The sun was beginning its westward descent, bringing slightly cooler temperatures but challenging light conditions. Most tracking operations would suspend until morning. Maverick and Fury had trained specifically for dusk tracking, their extraordinary sensory capabilities maximized during the transition between day and night operations. In Afghanistan, this had been their most effective hunting period, when conventional forces were most vulnerable during shift changes and visibility transitions. As they continued following the increasingly clear trail, David's tactical assessment evolved. The Red Iron Brotherhood had made no attempt to conceal their route or destination, suggesting complete confidence in their operational security. They believed themselves untouchable, protected by distance, terrain, and possibly corrupted law. Enforcement: they had never encountered trackers like Maverick and Fury, dogs who had followed high-value targets through mountains during sandstorms, who had tracked bomb makers across provinces despite professional counter-tracking measures, who had located hidden compounds that had eluded satellite surveillance and drone reconnaissance. David checked his specialized equipment one final time, confirming optimal functionality for night operations. The hunting expression his Marine unit had recognized settled on his face, the focused determination that preceded successful high-risk tracking missions. The Red Iron Brotherhood thought. They were beyond reach, their desert compound secure from pursuit. They were about to learn why Maverick and Fury had been considered the most lethal tracking team ever deployed in Helmand Province. The hunt was entering its most critical phase, and David Mitchell was just getting started. The setting sun cast long shadows across the Arizona desert as David and his dogs approached a ridgeline overlooking a natural basin. Maverick had alerted with the subtle head tilt that signaled proximity to their target, the same indication he'd used before locating insurgent compounds in Afghanistan. David immediately shifted to low-profile movement, a combat crawl that minimized his silhouette against the skyline. Fury flanked slightly to the right, maintaining tactical spacing without command, positioning learned through hundreds of combat operations. Both dogs moved with the silent efficiency that had once allowed them to approach high-value targets without detection, their powerful bodies flowing across the terrain like shadows. "Hold position," David whispered, deploying his specialized observation equipment. The compact, high-powered optics had been modified from military-grade to civilian appearance while maintaining superior functionality. Through the gathering dusk, he surveyed what Maverick and Fury had led him to, a compound nestled in the natural depression, partially concealed by rock formations and desert vegetation. The Red Iron Brotherhood had chosen their location with tactical expertise. Natural barriers provided physical security while eliminating direct line of sight from common travel routes. Multiple approach vectors could be monitored from elevated positions. Water access via what appeared to be a privately drilled well. Self-contained power generation through solar arrays and diesel backup. A defensible position with clear fields of fire in all directions. "Professional setup," David murmured to Maverick, who maintained perfect stillness beside him, despite having tracked for over 12 miles through punishing terrain. The Belgian Malinois' breathing remained controlled, his powerful body showing no signs of fatigue that would compromise operational effectiveness. Through his optics, David counted 15 motorcycles, 7 vehicles, and approximately 20 individuals moving through the compound with purpose rather than casual randomness. This wasn't a simple clubhouse. It was an operational base conducting systematic activities. "What have we got here, boys?" David whispered as he observed multiple individuals unloading crates from a van that had arrived while they watched. The practiced efficiency in their movements suggested routine operations rather than a one-time delivery. Maverick's ears suddenly shifted forward, his head turning slightly toward a sound imperceptible to human hearing. David recognized the alert. Immediately, approaching vehicle, still minutes away from human detection range. He adjusted his position slightly, maintaining optimal observation while reducing exposure. A black pickup truck approached the compound along a concealed access road. Dust plumes minimized by recent clearing, another indication of professional operational security measures. The vehicle stopped at a checkpoint where armed sentries conducted an inspection before allowing entry. Security protocols. Organized. Shifts, controlled access, David catalogued, recognizing the hallmarks of a sophisticated criminal enterprise rather than typical motorcycle club operations. The Red Iron Brotherhood had evolved beyond common theft and intimidation into something more structured. The truck parked near a corrugated metal building, where several men David identified as club leadership emerged to greet the driver. The man who stepped from the vehicle didn't match the biker profile. Business casual clothing, clean-cut appearance, carrying what appeared to be financial documentation rather than merchandise or weapons. "Financial operations," David concluded, photographing the interaction with his specialized equipment. The patterns were familiar from his intelligence work overseas. Criminal organizations eventually require legitimate-appearing business structures to manage increasingly complex operations. The Red Iron Brotherhood was following predictable criminal evolution. As darkness settled completely, the compound security lighting activated, illuminating the perimeter while creating deeper shadows within. David noted the professionally placed cameras, motion sensors at key access points, and regular patrol patterns by armed guards. Measures more consistent with paramilitary operations than standard criminal precautions. Fury suddenly tensed. Beside him, a nearly imperceptible change that communicated what David's human senses couldn't detect. Approach from the west. Someone moving toward their position with deliberate stealth rather than casual travel. The dog's specialized training allowed him to alert without sound or visible movement that would compromise their position. "Perimeter patrol," David whispered, immediately implementing counter-detection protocols. Both dogs pressed themselves flat against the earth, their dark coloring blending with the terrain as they controlled their breathing. Techniques developed for tracking operations behind enemy lines where detection meant certain death. The approaching figure materialized from the darkness, a Red Iron Brotherhood member conducting a wider security sweep than David had anticipated. The man moved with the disciplined precision of former military, using proper techniques for terrain. Navigation in limited visibility. This wasn't an amateur criminal. This was someone with specialized training, conducting professional security operations. David remained motionless as the sentry passed within 15 meters of their position, close enough that conventional dogs would have reacted regardless of training. Maverick and Fury maintained absolute stillness, their extraordinary discipline demonstrating why they had been selected for the most sensitive tracking operations in hostile territory. After the sentry moved beyond immediate threat range, David reassessed their tactical situation. The Red Iron Brotherhood security was more sophisticated than expected, indicating either experienced leadership or external professional consultation. Their operational security had been compromised only because they couldn't conceive of being tracked across 15 miles of desert by military working dogs operating at peak capability. "Reposition," David commanded in a whisper barely audible beyond inches. Both dogs immediately moved in perfect coordination, following him to a secondary observation point with improved cover and multiple escape routes, tactical habits ingrained through countless combat operations. As they settled into their new position, David observed another vehicle arriving, an SUV with official government plates. The implications were immediate and concerning. The Red Iron Brotherhood's operation had protection or cooperation from someone with official standing, explaining their confidence and operational security. The hunt had evolved from tracking criminals to documenting what appeared to be corruption at institutional levels. The complexity matched patterns David had encountered overseas, where insurgent operations often succeeded through compromise of local authority structures rather than superior tactics. The night deepened around them as David prepared for extended surveillance operations. Maverick and Fury settled into their practiced routines for sustaining operational readiness during prolonged missions, controlled rest cycles while maintaining perimeter awareness. The same protocols that had allowed them to track high-value targets across multiple days in combat zones. The Red Iron Brotherhood's compound operated with the confidence of an organization that believed itself beyond accountability. They had no idea they were being observed by a Force Recon Marine and 2 combat tracking dogs who had hunted the most elusive targets in the world's most hostile environments. Their security had been compromised in a way they couldn't possibly detect or counter, and David Mitchell was just beginning to understand the scale of what they had tracked. Biker gang slashes. Truckers' tires, not expecting to be tracked by Combat K9's Dawn's first light, had barely touched the horizon when the compound erupted with sudden activity. David, who had maintained surveillance through the night using specialized night vision equipment, immediately shifted to enhanced observation mode. Maverick and Fury tensed beside him, sensing the change in operational tempo without visible reaction. "Multiple vehicles mobilizing," David whispered, documenting the unexpected development. 3 trucks and 4 motorcycles were being prepared with practiced efficiency, weapons distributed, communications checked, all indicators of a planned operation rather than routine movement. Maverick's ears suddenly pivoted, his head turning slightly eastward. David recognized the alert pattern immediately. The dog had detected approaching aircraft, still minutes beyond human hearing range. Moments later, a helicopter appeared, flying deliberately low to minimize detection. No running lights despite the pre-dawn darkness. Professional approach, military-style insertion technique. "This just escalated," David murmured, as the helicopter landed briefly in the compound clearing. 2 men disembarked carrying what appeared to be document cases, while 1 individual boarded. A prisoner transfer based on the handling procedures and physical restraints visible even from this distance. The helicopter departed within 90 seconds, a textbook limited exposure extraction. The compound's activity intensified after the helicopter's departure. Leadership gathered around vehicles, coordinated movements suggesting immediate deployment, rather than standard preparation. David recognized the pattern from combat operations, rapid response to compromised security, assets being relocated, evidence contained. They've been compromised, he concluded, watching the practiced evacuation protocols unfold. Not by us. Something else triggered this. A sudden shift in the perimeter patrol patterns confirmed his assessment, guards doubling, overlapping. Fields of observation, focused attention on approaches from the south rather than general security. The Red Iron Brotherhood was expecting company from a specific direction, implementing countermeasures for a known threat rather than general precaution. Time to move, David decided, calculating risk factors against intelligence value. The changing security patterns would eventually extend to their current position. Continued observation required relocation to maintain tactical advantage. As they prepared to withdraw to a secondary position, Fury suddenly froze. The specialized alert posture indicating imminent threat detection. David instantly implemented counter-detection protocols, pressing flat against the earth as Maverick confirmed the threat through his own alert behavior. Through his peripheral vision, David caught movement. 2 security personnel approaching, their position from an unexpected vector, using terrain features for concealment. The patrol pattern had changed more dramatically than anticipated, professional security sweeping outward in response to whatever had compromised their operation. "They've made us," David whispered, recognizing the deliberate approach pattern of someone tracking specific indicators rather than conducting routine patrol. Whether through chance or skill, the security team had detected some sign of their presence during the heightened alert status. The tactical situation had deteriorated instantly. Continued hiding meant certain discovery. Movement meant potential engagement. David made the combat-trained decision that had kept him alive through dozens of high-risk operations. "Maverick, Fury, evasion pattern Delta," he commanded in a controlled whisper. Both Belgian Malinois immediately shifted to specialized movement protocols developed for breaking contact in hostile territory. Their powerful bodies flowed across the terrain with extraordinary discipline, not running blindly, but moving with precise coordination that maximized terrain advantages while minimizing visual signature. The security team spotted their movement, immediately shifting to pursuit mode. "Contact West Ridge!" one shouted into his radio, confirming David's assessment that their operational security had been compromised. The memory surfaced without warning. Helmand Province, 2018. Their tracking team compromised while observing. A high-value target, forced to evade through hostile territory for 18 hours before extraction. Maverick and Fury had led them through seemingly impassable terrain, using their extraordinary sensory capabilities to identify safe routes beyond human perception. "Find me a path, boys," David commanded, trusting his dog's specialized training as gunfire erupted behind them. The rounds impacted far-off target, suppression fire rather than accurate engagement, designed to fix their position for responding forces rather than achieve immediate effect. Maverick immediately altered course, leading them toward a dry wash that offered both concealment and multiple exit routes, terrain features invisible from their pursuer's position but clearly identified by the dog's superior situational awareness. Fury maintained rear security, his specialized training allowing him to track pursuit elements while continuing forward movement. Radio chatter behind them confirmed David's tactical assessment. The Red Iron Brotherhood was mobilizing all available personnel, coordinating to cut off escape routes rather than maintain direct pursuit. Professional response, suggesting military or law enforcement background among their leadership. "We need distance and deception," David told his dogs as they moved through the dry wash with practiced efficiency. The same challenges they'd overcome while tracking high-value targets could now be reversed, using terrain, environmental conditions, and specialized movement techniques to break pursuit rather than maintain it. The sun climbed higher as they executed a series of tactical movement patterns designed to break visual tracking while conserving energy, techniques developed during the most demanding operations in Helmand Province. The pursuing forces maintained radio discipline, but occasionally broadcast position updates that David intercepted through his specialized equipment, allowing him to anticipate rather than merely react. What had begun as a simple tracking operation had evolved into something far more dangerous. The Red Iron Brotherhood's response confirmed David's assessment. This wasn't just a criminal organization, but something with sophisticated operational capability and apparent official protection. Their reaction to compromise suggested high-value activities beyond simple theft and resale. As they reached more complex terrain, offering multiple movement options, David implemented the counter-tracking protocols that had once made his Force Recon unit virtually untraceable. Maverick and Fury executed their specialized roles perfectly, using terrain features to break scent trails while maintaining tactical movement toward their fallback position. The pursuit continued behind them, but growing less coordinated as distance and terrain complexity increased. The Red Iron Brotherhood had resources and training, but they'd never attempted to track a Force Recon Marine and 2 combat dogs who had specialized in disappearing in far more challenging environments than Arizona desert. "Regroup and reassess," David told his dogs as they reached a defendable position with good observation and multiple escape routes. The tactical situation had changed dramatically, but the mission remained intact. What they had witnessed demanded documentation and proper response, official corruption, organized criminal enterprise, and operations that extended far beyond mere truck sabotage. The hunt had become mutual, but only one side had been trained by the United States Marine Corps to operate, survive, and succeed against overwhelming odds in the most hostile environments on Earth. And David Mitchell had no intention of being the prey. The afternoon sun beat down mercilessly as David implemented his counter-offensive strategy. What had begun as a tracking operation had evolved into tactical warfare. The same shift he'd experienced countless times in Helmand Province. When intelligence gathering transitioned to direct action, Maverick and Fury remained in peak operational condition despite hours of evasion through punishing terrain, their specialized training allowing them to maintain combat effectiveness under conditions that would have exhausted conventional working. "Dogs, hydration and cooling protocols," David commanded, deploying the specialized equipment integrated into their tracking harnesses. Both Belgian Malinois stood perfectly still as he administered electrolyte-enhanced water and applied cooling gel to their core temperature regulation points, techniques developed for maintaining canine operational capability in extreme environments. "They've split into 4 search elements," David observed, monitoring radio transmissions through his specialized equipment. The Red Iron Brotherhood had organized their pursuit with professional precision, establishing search patterns that would have trapped conventional targets. Their coordination and communication discipline suggested leadership with tactical training beyond typical criminal operations. "Time to change the dynamic," David told his dogs as he completed their operational readiness check. Maverick and Fury watched him with unwavering focus, their powerful bodies showing no fatigue despite the extended high-intensity evasion. The same endurance that had allowed them to track targets across provinces now served their survival. The memory surfaced without warning. Helmand Province 2019. Their unit, cornered after faulty intelligence, led them into a prepared ambush. "Position," Survival dependent on transitioning from hunted to hunter, using their specialized capabilities to target the ambush coordinator rather than engaging superior numbers directly. Maverick had tracked the Taliban commander through 3 miles of urban terrain, allowing precision neutralization that collapsed the entire operation. "Command authority override," David stated, using the specialized phrase that shifted both. Dogs from evasion to offensive tracking mode, reverse pursuit protocol. Maverick and Fury immediately altered their operational posture, their training allowing them to transform from evading detection to actively hunting those searching for them. This specialized capability, transitioning seamlessly between hunted and hunter, had made them the most effective tracking team in Marine Force Recon. "Find me their command element," David directed, knowing their extraordinary scent discrimination capabilities would allow them to identify leadership through distinct indicators, different hygiene products, tobacco varieties, ammunition types, microscopic evidence invisible to human detection but unmistakable to dogs with their specialized training. Maverick took point position, leading them through terrain features that provided concealment while allowing approach to the main pursuit. Force. The dog's route selection demonstrated advanced tactical understanding, avoiding predictable approaches, utilizing elevation changes to maintain observation advantage, selecting natural features that disrupted sound transmission. Through his specialized optics, David located the Red Iron Brotherhood's command element coordinating the search operation. 3 individuals maintaining position on elevated terrain that offered optimal communication with search teams. Their operational security was professional, but focused outward, anticipating conventional movement rather than counter-offensive tactics. "Targeting solution confirmed," David whispered, as Maverick and Fury positioned themselves in perfect flanking formation. The same approach pattern they had used for high-value target operations in combat zones would now allow them to neutralize the pursuit leadership without alerting scattered search teams. David deployed his specialized equipment, not weapons, which would create legal complications, but military-grade, non-lethal capabilities modified for civilian application. The same systems that had incapacitated insurgent leadership without permanent injury would now disable the Red Iron Brotherhood's command element. "Execute," he commanded. Maverick and Fury moved with explosive power and precision, covering the 30 meters to the command position before the bikers could react effectively. Their attack was not the frenzied aggression of conventional dogs, but the calculated tactical intervention of combat-trained K9 operators. The lead biker reached for his weapon, but found his arm locked in Maverick's precisely calibrated bite. Not crushing force that would cause permanent damage, but immobilizing pressure that rendered him instantly defensive. Fury simultaneously targeted the communications specialist, disabling the pursuit force's coordination capability with practiced efficiency. David moved immediately to secure the third man, a heavily tattooed individual whose patch identified him as Slash, the Red Iron Brotherhood Sergeant-at-Arms. The man's eyes widened with shock as he recognized what they were facing. "Military dogs," he gasped, freezing in position as Maverick shifted attention toward him, having secured his primary target. "These are fucking military dogs." "Force Recon K9 combat trackers," David confirmed, securing their communications equipment while maintaining tactical advantage. Dogs who tracked high-value targets through mountains during sandstorms. You never had a chance. The realization spread across Slash's face, understanding that slashing a trucker's tires had inadvertently triggered pursuit by one of the most lethal tracking teams ever deployed in combat operations. His expression shifted from shock to calculation, professional criminal assessing new tactical realities. "You have no idea what you've stumbled into," Slash said, eyes darting toward the horizon where dust plumes indicated approaching vehicles, reinforcements responding to their last transmission. "This goes way beyond the Brotherhood, people you don't want to cross." Actually, I do know, David replied, retrieving his specialized communications device. That's why I've been transmitting everything we've observed for the past 18 hours to secure federal servers, including the helicopter transfer, official vehicle involvement, and your operational security protocols. David activated his emergency transponder, equipment that would transmit their precise coordinates to specific federal agencies outside local jurisdiction. The same system that had called for extraction during the most high-risk operations. In Helmand Province, 50 million in untraceable electronics moved through jurisdictions with cooperative officials, David continued, demonstrating intelligence beyond what Slash had anticipated. Your operation was perfect, except for one miscalculation. What's that? Slash asked, stalling as the reinforcement vehicles drew closer. You chose a target who spent 3 years hunting the most elusive adversaries on Earth, David answered as Maverick and Fury maintained perfect containment positions despite the approaching threats. With partners specifically trained to track what cannot be tracked, the dust clouds on the horizon suddenly changed direction, the approaching vehicles altering course as new elements appeared from the east. The distinctive profile of state police tactical units, moving in coordinated formation, revealed David's transmission had reached its intended recipients. Your local protection doesn't extend to state and federal jurisdiction, David explained, as Slash's expression collapsed into resignation. And they've been looking for probable cause to move against this operation for months. The tactical situation transformed in moments as law enforcement elements established containment perimeters. Around the entire operational area, the Red Iron Brotherhood security teams found themselves outmaneuvered and outgunned by professional tactical units responding with overwhelming force. As state police secured the immediate area, David maintained position with Maverick and Fury, continuing their disciplined containment of the command element. The dogs showed no fatigue despite having tracked across 15 miles of desert, evaded pursuit for hours, and executed perfect tactical intervention against armed adversaries. The hunt had come full circle. What began with slashed truck tires had led directly to the heart of a multi-state criminal enterprise protected by corrupted officials, all because they never considered the possibility that their target might be a Force Recon Marine with 2 of the most extraordinary tracking dogs ever deployed in combat operations, and Maverick and Fury had once again proven why they had been considered the most lethal tracking team in Helmand Province. Morning sunlight streamed across the state police command post, established near the Red Iron Brotherhood compound. David sat beside a tactical operations vehicle, Maverick and Fury maintaining perfect heel position despite the chaotic activity surrounding them. Both Belgian Malinois showed no fatigue after 24 hours of continuous operations, tracking 15 miles through desert terrain, evading pursuit, and executing tactical intervention against armed adversaries. The scale of what you uncovered is unprecedented, Captain Reynolds of the State Police Organized Crime Division explained, reviewing preliminary evidence reports. 7 jurisdictions compromised, 3 separate distribution networks, political protection extending to county level. This operation was practically untouchable. David nodded, watching as evidence response teams catalogued seized materials from the compound. Weapons, financial records, electronic components matching those, stolen from his truck, and dozens of others over the past 6 months. The systematic professionalism of the criminal enterprise was evident in their meticulous documentation. Till they made the mistake of targeting your truck, Reynolds continued, genuine respect in his voice. Force Recon K9 handler, 3 combat. Deployments specialized in high-value target tracking. Of all the vehicles on that highway, they chose yours. Maverick shifted slightly, alerting David to an approaching figure before any sound was detectable. The dog's situational awareness remained razor-sharp despite the extended operation. Fury mirrored the behavior from David's other side, both dogs maintaining protective coverage without obvious aggression. Mr. Mitchell, a woman in a federal tactical uniform, approached, extending credentials, identifying her as FBI Special Agent Harmon. I need to debrief you on certain aspects of this operation that extend beyond state jurisdiction. As they moved to a secure area, David noted how law enforcement personnel maintained respectful distance from Maverick and Fury. Not fear, but professional recognition of combat-trained working dogs. Several tactical team members with military backgrounds nodded with understanding, one touching the K9 tattoo on his forearm in silent acknowledgement. Your real-time transmissions provided the probable cause needed to move against this organization, Agent Harmon explained once they were alone. We've been building a case for 8 months, but couldn't establish direct connections between the criminal elements and corrupted officials. David watched as Slash and other Red Iron Brotherhood leaders were processed into federal custody, their expressions showing the dawning realization of how completely their operation had been compromised. The helicopter you observed was conducting a prisoner transfer, Harmon continued, a federal witness who was being moved off books to prevent testimony. Your documentation provides the first concrete evidence linking specific officials to direct criminal activity. Maverick and Fury maintained perfect discipline despite their exhaustion. The same unwavering focus they demonstrated during the most demanding operations in Helmand province. David administered their post-operation care with practiced efficiency, the same protocols he'd followed after high-risk tracking missions overseas. Your dog's tracking abilities are extraordinary, Agent Harmon observed. Our K9 units estimated that trail was impossible to follow in those conditions. They've tracked high-value targets through sandstorms, David replied simply. Followed bomb makers across provinces during monsoon season. Located hidden compounds that satellite surveillance couldn't find. Desert heat and motorcycle trails were well within their capabilities. As the federal response expanded, local truckers who had lost cargo to similar attacks began arriving at the command post, drawn by radio reports of the operation. Their expressions showed disbelief as they learned how the criminal organization had been exposed, not by conventional law enforcement, but by a former Marine and his 2 combat dogs who had tracked the thieves across 15 miles of desert. You're telling me those dogs followed them from the truck stop all the way out here? One driver asked, studying Maverick and Fury with newfound respect. Through this heat? That's impossible. Not for these dogs, Reynolds replied. They tracked high-value targets in Afghanistan for 3 deployments. The Brotherhood never had a chance. By afternoon, David had completed his formal statements and evidence documentation. His specialized equipment had been examined by federal, technical teams who recognized modified military technology, but wisely chose not to question its civilian legality given the case's significance. We've arranged transport for your truck, Agent Harmon informed him as they concluded the debriefing. Your company has been notified of your assistance in a federal investigation. The cargo has been recovered and documented as evidence. David knelt between Maverick and Fury, checking them once more for injuries or stress indicators. Both Belgian Malinois maintained their professional bearing, despite having operated continuously for over 24 hours. The same endurance that had made them legendary among Force Recon units. Your country owes you another debt, Harmon said quietly, watching the bond between handler and dogs. All 3 of you. As they prepared to depart, Slash looked up from the transport vehicle, about to take him into federal custody. His eyes locked with David's, professional criminal recognizing a predator far more lethal than himself. We never even considered the possibility, he called out, shaking his head in disbelief. Just another trucker with some dogs. How are we supposed to know? David didn't respond verbally, but Maverick and Fury shifted positions slightly, their combat-hardened bodies communicating. Everything necessary. These weren't pets. They were warriors who had tracked the most elusive targets through the most hostile environments on Earth. 3 days later, David's 18-wheeler continued its original route to Phoenix, cargo bay now empty after evidence. Processing but scheduled back on track. Maverick and Fury maintained their watch positions in the cab, their extraordinary capabilities once again concealed beneath the appearance of ordinary pets accompanying their owner. To passing vehicles, they appeared to be nothing remarkable, just another long-haul trucker with his dogs. Only the Red Iron Brotherhood, now facing federal prosecution across 3 states, understood the truth. Some truckers bring more than cargo on the highways. Some bring the unrelenting tracking capabilities that once hunted high-value targets. Through the deadliest battlefields on Earth, the Arizona desert stretched endless through. David's windshield, as Maverick pressed briefly against his side, the subtle gesture of partnership that had sustained them through countless combat operations. These weren't just pets or even conventional working dogs. They were warriors who had found purpose in continuing to hunt those who believed themselves beyond reach. Some hunters never stop tracking. They just find different prey,